So I'm here with Ron Placode, comedian Ron Placode. Hi, Ron.
Hey, Jimmy.
Comedian Robert Yasabura. How, Robert? And Hank Thompson. Hi, Hank.
Hey, it's me.
We're having a discussion about this election. And Robert, I say, you know what I've been saying is that the arguments that people make for voting for Hillary is that somehow Trump is this horrible thing. And they say Supreme Court, and they go the taxes, and they go, and my argument to that is, if you take Trump's name out of it, it's the same argument that they've been making for the last 30 years. That the Supreme Court, gays, taxes, the same thing. Let's remember it was a Democrat who put George Bush's taxes permanent. It was a Democrat who deregulated Wall Street. It was a Democrat who pushed NAFTA, and now it's a Democrat who's pushing the TPP. My point is that at some point, so this argument is the same. It's not different. And I'm saying at some point, if all the people who agreed with the policies of a third party, meaning like like Jill Stein, like her platform, we agree with. So if people like me and Robert and Ron and Hank and people like Cenk Uygur and Wes Clark Jr. and Ben May and everybody at the Young Turks, everybody I know that agrees with Jill Stein's platform actually voted for Jill Stein, she'd probably get about 20% of the vote. And that would completely change our electoral system in America. If all of a sudden a lefty candidate, which we don't have now, is garnering 20% of the vote, which I think if everybody I know agrees with her would just do that, but they don't do that because they go, well, she's not going to win. She doesn't have a chance. And the reason why I say that that's the case is because people keep saying that. And the idea is you can't vote for a third party in America ever. You can't vote for one ever because there aren't enough people voting for them yet. So you can only start voting for a third party after a bunch of people already have started voting for a third party. And so I'm saying that right now, we need a way on the left to vote against Goldman Sachs. We need a way to vote against Wall Street. We need a way to vote against more war. We need a way to vote against fracking and the fossil fuel industry. And right now, we don't have that. I mean, in those two major candidates. So I'm going to vote for the Green Party candidate, Jill Stein, because I'm voting my conscience, which, by the way, Hillary Clinton urged me to do. She said, vote your conscience. So does Bernie Sanders, by the way. Bernie Sanders says, I can't tell my followers what to do. I'm telling you, and you shouldn't listen to me, he said. You got to vote your conscience. So if everybody voted their conscience, we'd have a completely different political landscape because the Democrats would lose half their support. And so they'd have to change. And if they didn't, there'd be another party to take their place. And a lot of people are saying right now, there's over 100 top Republicans right now who aren't going to support Donald Trump. They say they're voting for Hillary. So right now, we have a chance, I think, to kind of reshape the political landscape. I don't think it's going to happen because of that thinking. People thinking they're too afraid. It's the same old 30-year thinking. If you take Trump's name out of the equation, it's the same arguments. Supreme Court. That's the argument they've been using.
No, it's not the same. This is a guy who could get us into the war with the Dutch. You're talking about a lunatic. We're not talking about someone who is just like Mitt Romney. Okay, we're talking about somebody whose response to things is insane, demonstrably insane.
So you think the Iraq War was not insane?
I'm not saying I didn't think the
Iraq War was insane. So,
but I'm also saying,
so you're saying vote for a candidate who's already done an insane war. So you see that's not strong, right? That's not a strong argument, right? You'll agree that's not a strong argument because the person you're telling me to vote for already fully backed an insane war. You knew was insane. I knew was insane. Everybody knew was insane. And everybody knew that the reason why we were going into Iraq had nothing to do with what they were saying. So she already was proven to be irresponsible and start an insane war already. So you're saying this other guy's worse.
I'm saying Hillary Clinton sat down, looked at the information she was provided by the intelligence community, came to a conclusion, not one I would have come to. I'm saying, and Donald Trump would not have sat down, looked at that information. He would have shot from the hip and just done whatever he happened to feel like at that moment, and then lied about it 10 minutes later. That's what I'm voting against.
So worst case scenario, he would have invaded Iraq?
No, worst case scenario, he would have invaded Namibia for no reason.
So So you don't want to talk
if
seriously
you
about this?
You honestly think
You don't want to talk seriously about this?
No, I do. If you honestly think that Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are the same person.
I don't think they're the same person. I'm just asking you to justify what you're saying. I'm saying at some point so in 4 more years there's going to be Hillary Clinton. In 4 more years, what's going to be your argument then? It's going to be the exact same argument. The Supreme Court.
No.
This guy's crazy.
That will be the argument I had 4 years ago. That will be the argument I have 4 years forward. The argument I have against Trump is that this is a man who is clinically insane. This is a man.
And what do you think going into but she already did an insane war. So you're contradicting yourself. You're saying that I don't want to go with Trump because he'll do an insane war. I want to go with her because she'll do an insane war.
I didn't say that. I don't think
she just did an insane. You admitted she did an insane war. So this is the problem people have with Hillary. That's why it doesn't work anymore this time. This argument, and they go, well, then people go Supreme Court. She already picked Tim Kaine, who's to the right of her. Tim Kaine is right to work, for Christ's sake. So I'm saying I'm just saying the arguments are weak on Hillary's side, and the argument for voting third party, I think, are a lot stronger than people are giving. I'm not saying vote Trump at all. I'm not saying that at all.
But you do understand that the result is the same.
I don't really, because if Jill Stein, I mean, there's a lot of different variables, but
and by the way, I did vote my conscience. It's called a primary.
Okay.
I voted for Bernie Sanders in the primary.
I think you get to vote your conscience every time you vote.
Well, I think there's a strategy.
What do you think?
I think there's a strategy. So that's why I feel like I'm right in between you guys, because I do think there's a strategy here. I live in California, so I'm going to be voting for Jill Stein because I do want to see those numbers get up. I do want to see an actual progressive option in the future. On the other hand, I do see a difference between someone who is hawkish and has made some pretty big mistakes in the past and someone who has his finger on the button. If someone tweets and insults what that finger looks like, he'll push the button. He is insane. He is a megalomaniac. And the guy that's really going to be calling the shots is Mike Pence. And I do see a difference between Mike Pence and Hillary Clinton. Do I like Hillary Clinton? No.
So now it's not even Trump anymore. It's just Mike Pence.
It's both.
So it's any Republican.
Well,
so it's any Republican, you'll make that argument. That's what you're pretty much saying. Any Republican against the neoliberal, and you're going to vote neoliberal.
Well, I think that Hillary Clinton, I mean, the debate made me feel a little bit better, even though I'm still probably going to vote for Jill Stein. But the debate made me feel a little bit better because it says a lot about a person's ability to lead when you see the way they stand up to a bully. And I thought she did a good job in that regard. So I have to hope that she'll listen to the electorate. I disagree with her on fracking. I disagree with her on the TPP. I disagree with a lot of her record. I don't think she's going to come through on the living wage because I want to see 15 push through. But I think she'll at least listen to the electorate, surround herself with the right people.
You mean like Tim Kaine? Ken Salazar? Those kind of people? She's given us lots of indications that she'll surround herself with the right people. I'm just saying the arguments are weak, and I'm saying that it's not crazy for someone to say we need to create some political space on the left for a third party. And how great would it be if Jill Stein was on that stage? I would say all 4 of them on that stage. I mean, I think Gary Johnson.
I want to see that
too. Again, he's like half nuts, and half of the stuff he says I love. Let's stop doing the drug war. I think that's great. But then he says, hey, look, screw climate change. Let's do more coal. I'm like, okay, this guy, everybody's a libertarian up to a point, And so. But I think it would be great to have them there. They never brought up Citizens United during the debate. They never brought up campaign finance reform. And so I think it would be to have at least one person on that stage who can make that argument. I think it's time. And, I'm starting to get into that book, Listen Liberal. And, things are much worse, I think, than people think. And at some point, if someone has an alternate plan on how to break out of this neoliberal nightmare, I would love to hear it, but nobody has another plan. They just say, keep doing what we've always done for the last 30 years, voting for the less of two evil, and that lesser of two evil has gotten way more evil, by the way. Way more evil. And by the way, half the country is now poor. 1 in 4 kids lives in poverty, and 50% of all wage earners earn less than $50,000, and this isn't the richest country in the world. If you think voting for more of that is somehow, I say now's the time to vote third party, because if everybody voted their conscience, it would make a big difference in the political landscape.
It would not make shit bit of difference.
It's 3 o'clock.
Ross
But what
Perot
would make
did-
a difference? So what's your
You
plan?
want to know how you do it?
You can't just attack me. You have to have a plan.
I do have a plan.
Let me hear
you
it.
want to make a difference? You do exactly what the hard right did for 30 fucking years. They dug in and they did a ground game that lasted for 30 years. So you start.
No, that was the neoliberals selling out. That wasn't the right wing. That was
No.
that was some of that.
That is the Koch brothers. That is people
Yes.
forming,
Yeah, that's
taking
big
money.
money. Again, that's big
forming,
money.
But it's not just that. This is part of the messaging strategy that starts in the '60s. That is a pure ground game. This is also part of. Partly the Koch brothers
So what
side
do
of things.
so-
Let
Again,
me
so-
fucking finish.
I just want to know what your plan is.
What am I saying?
Okay.
What you do is you form institutions like think tanks, like messaging groups, like that, and you start forming a ground game and you start putting in your candidates on the local level. That's the most important thing that's happened in the Republican Party in the last 30 years is that they have started taking over local and state governments at the biggest level and messaging hard into those people and making and also creating an image and a brand. The Democratic Party, the Liberal Party have no positive imaging within most Americans. So it is a long ground game.
So you're saying completely reinvent the Democratic Party?
I would say the Green Party has a chance to
That's
do what you're
saying-
describing.
that's what
I
I'm
think the
saying.
Green
But
Party
can we
has a
start
chance,
now?
and I'm with you on that.
But
Like I'm
the
totally
thing
with you
is,
on
is
that.
And maybe if she gets 5% now, then the Green Party gets federal funding. So this is what I'm going for, right? And it's time. It's time, Brian.
I'm sorry, but did Anderson, Perot, Nader, I have been through these third-party candidates through the course of my life,
Right.
and none of them created a movement that has sustained, that has really challenged the status quo.
That's why I'm saying we got to do it now. Now we're got to do it.
But that's what they said every time. That's what Anderson said. That's what Perot said. That's what Nader said. And those guys all garnered somewhere between 5 and 15% of the vote nationally, and it didn't make a
Not
difference.
Nader didn't. I hear your point. I think we'll fundamentally disagree because all your prescription is to do what we've always
and
done.
by the way,
your prescription is to do what we've always done: vote for neoliberals. We've done that for 30 years, Robert, and that's what's led us here.
But that's not
So
what you're talking about. Is not what's on really. What's not what's on the ballot. What you're talking about is a fundamental change in the whole party system of the whole country.
Yes.
This one election is about who is going to be president come January 20th.
Yeah.
Okay?
Right.
That is not going to be Jill Stein. It is not going to be.
So this is the same argument. This is the same argument for the last 30 years. And this will be the same argument you're going to make in 4 years. And it'll be the same argument you make in the next 4 years. It's the exact same argument, Robert. This is there's not an original thought in your argument.
I'm not saying that there's an original thought in my argument. I'm saying that all the empirical evidence says this is what's going to happen. It's going to be one of these two candidates, and you're voting for a third or fourth party candidate isn't going to make shit bit of difference in terms of your own causes. If you want to make a difference in terms of your causes, you get into a ground game. You start forming think tanks. You start messaging. You start getting into local and state governments. That's how you change things. But what you're talking about is putting something very dangerous into the White House.
What?
If Trump gets into the White House, trust me,
He might start an insane war in Iraq? I mean, you've already admitted that the person you're voting for already started an insane war. You're already admitting that. She's already trying to start the Cold War with Russia again. But Robert F. Kennedy, speechwriter, has already said she's a worse war hawk than him. So I'm not voting for Trump. I'm saying it's time now to vote for a third party. Because Hillary Clinton's just going to keep going further right. We got to have a way to recapture our political process in America. We live in an oligarchy now, Robert. We live in an oligarchy now.
You're politically pissing up a rope.
I mean, half the country doesn't vote right now, Robert. Half the country doesn't vote.
And effectively, you won't be voting either.
Okay, this is a disagreement. Anything?
Well, no, I do disagree there, but again, it's one of those things. I live in California, so I'm going to vote for Joseph. If I lived in a swing state, I would vote for Hillary Clinton because I don't think
because you're afraid of Mike Pence.
Yeah, well,
so
there's
any
a time to
Republican,
stand your
any
principle.
Republican will get you to vote
when you really
for a
want
neoliberal.
real change.
And it doesn't. Any run-of-the-mill Republican
I
is
don't think
enough
Mike
to.
Pence is a run-of-the-mill Republican.
Oh,
That-
you think
that
he's an
guy is a
evil
fringe
genius?
I used to live in Indiana. I know some of the stuff that went on in that state.
So now it's Mike Pence too. So Trump
insists-
and Mike Pence.
He insisted
any
aborted
Republicans?
fetuses get a funeral.
So is
Mike
there-
Pence is it fucking insane?
Agreed. Again, I agreed. Hillary started an insane war in Iraq. She called black kids super predators. She gutted welfare at the same time as they ramped up the prison population. I don't know I don't know how much worse. You know that Bill Clinton had a secret plan. He had a secret agreement with Newt Gingrich to privatize Social Security. Did you know that? That's a true thing. That's real. Yes, that is real. The guy who deregulated Wall Street, gutted welfare, deregulated the telecommunications industry, also had a private plan signed with Newt Gingrich to privatize Social Security, and he even went out and gave a speech about it, and you know what happened the next day? Monica Lewinsky. And that's why we still have Social Security, because
God
of
for that
Monica Lewinsky. Because Bill Clinton was ready to sell Social Security down, and Barack Obama, up until 5 minutes ago, was trying to cut Medicare and Social Security. That's called the grand bargain. So it was when the Democrats turned their back on the New Deal and being a Democrat, and they got in bed with the people that are working diametrically. Wall Street is diametrically opposed to workers, Robert. Diametrically opposed. And Bill Clinton sold out their workers and diminished their power forever. And he did it on purpose.
So I'm.
And so now I can't vote for more of that.
Just to be clear, I would rather spend 4 years complaining about everything that you're complaining about than even 1 year dealing with the Trump administration.
I mean, I just think that's a monumental miscalculation.
So you think a Trump administration is fine?
No.
Compared to
I think they're both
compared
horrible.
to a Clinton administration.
No, they're both horrible. They're both horrible.
But you're saying they're both equally
and I
horrible.
think, and I don't know. Who knows? I know Hillary's horrible, and I can't vote for more war. And if you think voting for more war makes things better, that's a disagreement I'm going to have with you. If you think voting for Goldman Sachs makes things better, I'm just going to fundamentally disagree with you, and we have to give people a choice. And if people like you, who I know you agree with Jill Stein more than Hillary Clinton, I know you do. And until people like you feel like you can vote your conscience on the left, we're going to keep getting a shit sandwich. And until people like you and me have courage to break away from these motherfuckers who have, they're just like George Carlin said, they don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck. It's a big club and you're not in it, and they don't give a fuck, and they're coming for your Social Security. They don't give a fuck about you. And so at some point, we have to have a different strategy. So that's what I'm saying. Nobody who disagrees with me offers a different strategy except what we've done. And every 4 years, it gets worse and fucking worse. And I don't still think people realize.
I just gave
how
you a
bad it is.
strategy. I gave you a strategy.
Your strategy is to do the same thing.
You're talking about no. My strategy is you need to fix the Green Party and get it into real candidacy. The presidency is not.
You have to show up at the polls to do that.
To do
but you
that.
have to be strategic about it, and that's what I'm saying. That's why it's like I'm going to vote for California, Jill Stein, but
the
you can do
presidency
that without
is
risking a Trump presidency.
one election in the whole country. There are hundreds, if not thousands,
I agree.
of
Look,
elections
we should do that
go
too.
on
I
in
think
this
we
country.
should do that too. And imagine if the Green Party got 10% of the vote, how that would reinvigorate the left in America.
It won't do shit.
Okay, we'll disagree. So again, you don't have anything else to offer. So that's the problem.
Look, let me explain
That's
something.
the problem. People
let me
like
tell you, Gary Johnson is going to get 15% of the vote this turn, okay, which is roughly in the neighborhood of what you're saying you want for Jill Stein. If there is one click of the needle for the Libertarian Party as a serious party, I will be blown away. There is not going to the third and fourth party candidates are not taken seriously. They're folded back into other parties.
So I mean, again, this is just a defeatist
on the national
accept
level.
what the corporation gives you attitude, and I'm just going to fundamentally disagree with you.
I'm dealing with the reality which has been given to me.
What do you think I'm
unless
dealing
you want a
with?
revolution,
What do you think I'm dealing with? I'm trying to.
You're dealing with the fantasy of what you want versus what is.
No, you're dealing with the fantasy of voting for Hillary Clinton makes anything better.
I'm not saying it'll make it better, but it won't make it worse.
It will make things a lot worse, Robert. Every 4 years, things get a lot worse. Again, we're going to stop this
I have
because it's the
healthcare.
same.
Hey,
it's the same argument. It's
I
the
have
same
health
argument.
care. Okay. The economy is in infinitely better shape
You
than
have
it was
Romney
in
care,
2008.
right? You have Romney care.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I had a president who had the political will to get it through Congress, which was almost a Sisyphean task. Instead of starting actual ground wars, yes, we have a really horrific national security system, but the last 8 years, we haven't started a full-blown fucking ground war anywhere.
Oh, okay.
So are things better? But they're certainly not as bad as they were under Bush.
We haven't started. That's such a weak fucking. We've only kept going the 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 countries we've been bombing since. Complete continuation of George Bush's foreign policy, and to say otherwise reveals that you don't know what you're talking about, because it's the exact same foreign policy as George W. Bush. Exact. So, our Peace Prize guy has bombed 8 different Muslim countries. He continues to drone bomb weddings. He continues to sell arms to Saudi Arabia, and they go bomb innocent people in Yemen. We're still throughout. Hillary's dying to bomb more in Syria. Again, I'm going to vote against war. You can vote for more of it. I'm going to vote for less of it.